Inventory is just a huge item for most manufacturers for us to audit when we do that.
And in today's environment too, we see inventories that are a little bit non-traditional because companies are manufacturing things that sometimes are harder to touch. Maybe they're manufacturing software, maybe they're manufacturing something else that's still an inventory. But still, it's exciting just to see the product being made. It's really the American dream, you might say, and it's fun to watch, and it's fun to see how companies really concentrate and engineer a product to be efficient and to work right and to be attractive to a customer, and that's what I've been doing for 30-some years. And when it comes to auditing a company like that, it's so important to understand that process and get a good understanding of their process. I've had clients take me up on a catwalk in the top of a warehouse and say, "Look, this is what we do. You know, just get a feel for this before you actually go down." And so I think the challenge sometimes is to see it from the 30,000-foot level, but at the same time see it at that smallest level of that little piece of manufacturing product and how they cut it and how they process it, and it again, like I said, you can kind of tell by the way I'm talking. It's exciting to me to see that and just see how that process works. Now you talk about the funny ones. Of course, I've had chicken processing clients. So the old joke was, how do you take inventory at a chicken plant? Well, you count the legs and divide by 2. But that was, so we all have experiences with things that are very easy to count, things that are very difficult to count. When you have a lot of liquid measures or things that weigh a lot, then it becomes difficult.
It really does. There again, we've seen such a wide variety of things like that. Like you said, you were talking about the chicken processing. We've done things like that where we have to go into freezers, and it may be mid-August and it's 105 degrees outside, and we're wearing snowsuits to be able to go in and count inventory because we're doing just like the client does. I had you were talking about liquids. I've had a client that had big vats, huge vats of liquids that they had to inventory and measure. And I remember one of them in particular that we were doing, and it happened to be in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, but we did the inventory and they put a stick down in that tank to see how deep it was. But then everybody stood around trying to figure out, well, how do you know then exactly how much is in there? So we ended up deciding we would call the University of Alabama Math Department, and we gave them the statistics on the tank, and they were able to do the math on it and came back and told us exactly how many gallons were in that tank. Of course, then we spray painted that formula on the outside of that tank, so we would always remember it from there on.
We could tell stories for days, both of us could. We've seen a lot of stuff. But I think the point is when you're working with a client and when you're working with them either in some sort of consulting arrangement or an acquisition or just a financial statement audit, that it's important to have that expertise, and it's important to say, well, we're just not going to walk in there and just start randomly counting. We're going to think about what's the important things to count. We're going to think about what items maybe need to be excluded. And we're going to talk with management, make sure we understand what they do. Maybe work in process is not that significant. Maybe you don't even need to count work in process. And so there's all kinds of different things. Are there inventories off-site? Are there things consigned? Are there items on the dock that have already been sold? Do you have inventory in train cars? And so it's just lots of different things to consider. And I think with our experience, we consider that on the front end, rather than find out 3 days later that we missed something big.
Well, I agree. In the end, it like most other things in the auditing world and accounting, I guess, it comes down to planning. We've got to plan, we've got to understand, as you say, that inventory, the way that operation works, and we've got to plan what we do to make sure we cover all those bases. So I think it is truly vitally important that we have people on the ground who do understand the business and work at getting a good vision of what that business is doing and use that information as we do our audit work.